So greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cut and Mix. I am your hostess, Vanessa Hundley, aka DJ Audioprism. Here today, I have with me perfumer Geir Ness, because on this show, this is where I get to go beyond the music and follow one of my other passions, which is getting to know amazing people. And this man definitely falls into that category. So today, we're going to dive deeper into Geir's story and explore the motivation and inspirations that brought him from the beautiful mountains of Norway into the grand world of being a perfumer. Geir, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be with you.
Well, where you are today is a long, long way from where you started, which you were a very outdoorsy kind of kid growing up in the beautiful mountains of Norway and near the clear rivers and lakes that are there. So tell us a little bit about what your life was growing up in Norway.
Well, I am from a family with three brothers, mom and dad. And when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. We lived in a fourplex. So we had a upstairs in the second floor. And in the winter time, when we had to go to the bathroom, we didn't have any bathroom in our apartment. So we had to walk down 2 floors, and we shared the bathroom with our neighbors downstairs. And, you know, in the winter, it can be in Norway 10, 20 below zero. So it's pretty cold and dark to go down there. But
yeah.
So my mom and dad had their bedroom in our living room, and they were 3 brothers, you know, in the bedroom. But we grew up with lots of love. And we spent a lot of times outside because we had such a small little space, you know. So I basically grew up outside and inside. And that's why I fell in love with the nature in a very, very early, you know, young age.
So when you were growing up, I know you mentioned that you could ski before you could walk.
Yes. It was funny because my dad was a ski trainer. So when I was a year old, you know, he put ski on my foot, and I was going down the hills, and he telling me this story that I don't remember, but he was saying there was a couple people from Great Britain that were staying down, and you see this little, you know, 1-year-old going down. Oh my God, you know, because they don't have much, you know, snow in England, right? So they were like impressed that this little 1-year-old could ski, you know, going down. So he was telling me that story that I was actually a skier before I could walk. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, hey, you know, did your brothers follow suit? Were they as sporty and outdoorsy as you were?
Yeah, all of us was doing sports since we were basically born, because my dad was all into sports and skiing. So, and they also, both my parents loved the outdoor and the mountains and all that. So we spent a lot of times way up in the mountains in Norway, in the woods, you know, where the lakes are and all that. And I remember I always loved the scenery in Norway and the smell. You know, we go up in the mountain, it's like such a fresh, clean, light smell. We feel like, wow, this is really cool, you know. So yeah, so I just totally fell in love with the nature since I was like a year old.
So you grew up with a lot of support in your family, and it sounds like you were all very tight-knit. I know you went through school. Did you do school beyond, I guess, what we would call high school here? Did you go to college or university?
Yeah, I studied economics, you know, on college, you know, for 3 years. And I was never really a person that could sit down and study for hours. I had... I'm very creative when it comes to things, and I was sitting there like, oh my God, you know, I mean, I could do it, but I didn't really I hate paperwork. And I remember every time I was closing my eyes sometimes, and I see a palm tree, and I see beaches, and I see me, you know, there somehow. And I always wanted to get away, you know, and get out there and be creative with something. I didn't know what it was at that time, but I love, you know, seeing movies. I was into seeing movies and, you know, acting and the whole thing. So while I was studying economics, I always dreamt about something else than what I was doing.
Well, that eventually led you to become a tour guide in Majorca. How did that come about?
That is a really fun story, Vanessa. What happened was that I was looking through those ads, you know, in the paper, and they were looking for a tour guide in Spain at the island of Majorca. Wow, this is great. But then it says you had to speak fluent Spanish, and you have to know this island from before, And I said, well, I haven't been there. I don't speak a word of Spanish, but let me go and try and go for an interview, right? So I write down, and they call me in for an interview. And at that time, it was a job that everybody wanted in Norway. Can you imagine go to Spain, the wintertime, and it's cold, and and all that, and palm trees. So there was hundreds of people that wanted this job, and it's going to have like 10 people, I guess. So I did an interview. So I was interviewed, and I told the interviewer that, oh yeah, I can speak Spanish and all that. And she liked me and said, well, you're going to have an interview with a Spanish teacher. But then the Spanish teacher didn't show up because it was caught in the traffic, whatever. So the person that interviewed me just wrote down, 10 that I could speak it fluently, because that's what I said, right? And days later, they called me in and said, I got the job. And I was like, oh my God, I got this job and I can't speak the language. And my parents drove me to the airport, and I was like pretty nervous. I flew into Majorca, the island of Majorca, at night. And they picked me up, and they got me into my hotel, and they gave me, my shirts and my ties that I'm going to wear the next day. And they said, well, tomorrow morning, you're going to be at the information desk and take, care of the people that has questions about the island and all that. So I started to read all night about, the island and everything. And it's, oh my God. So this family from Sweden came by, mom and dad and 2 kids. And the father said to me, well, we want to go to a place on this island that there's not a lot of tourists, away from it all, because we wanted to really see this island differently. And I was reading the map while he was talking to me, and I see some swinging stuff on the map, So I said, yeah, but when you drive, because it's a very swingy road. And I was reading on the side of the map what it says about some areas. And I was reading about this restaurant that named Gloria, that was famous for paella and all that. So I said, go to this restaurant and ask for Gloria, and you have to have the paella. It's the best on the island. Every time I go there, oh my God, it's the best. You got to do it. After that, you drive down to the beach, because I saw this was a playa, beach and blah, blah, blah. And he took notes. And then I had to call for a rental car. And I didn't word of Spanish, but I had the phone number to the rental-car company. So I called the number, they say something in Spanish, and I just answer. I'm like, sí, claro, sí, claro, aquí. Just like it's made up Spanish, right? And the name of the hotel I'm staying at, and now it says ahora. So I say like a coche, which is, car, ahora, blah, 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 and I hang up. And 10, 15 minutes later, the car came with and they left. And I was like, okay. And I started to learn pretty quickly. I'm a pretty street smart. So I learned pretty quickly. And 2 months later, I got a letter from the secretary, my boss, to come into the capital, which is Palma in Majorca. And I thought I was going to get fired, right? So I go in there, and the secretary gave me a letter, said, read this before you go in. And they said, dear so-and-so, we went to Majorca for the first time. And we met this Norwegian guide, Geir, and we have never met anybody that knew so much about this island. We had the best trip ever. We just wanted him to know that we are so happy with our vacation and blah, blah, blah. And then my boss threw some keys to me and said, okay, Geir, tomorrow you're going to take over this part of the island. And I got my own apartment and my car and everything, and he upgraded me to be a boss, from not knowing anything. So what it shows you, Vanessa, is if you want something and you believe in yourself 110%, you can do it, So that's what I'm trying to tell people about the story, that so many people telling me, well, it's so hard. We can't do this. We can't do that. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, you can, but you got to believe in yourself first. You got to like yourself and believe in yourself.
Well, and most things that you really want that are really worth it are going to take some considerable work to get to. I mean, you weren't just, a boss over some people. You had 30 people under you for that position.
Right.
So that's a lot of people to manage. Now, fast forward a few years and you decide to head to LA, the land of dreams and opportunity, because as you said earlier, you loved movies and you loved watching the skill of acting, and this was that point in life where you thought, maybe I'm gonna go to the city of dreams and try to be an actor myself. So What were some of the projects, or what was something that inspired you to go ahead and just reach out and make that move to go all the way to LA?
So after I started to work in Majorca as a tour guide, I was there for a couple of years. One of the things that I was doing was cabaret show for all the tourists. So I was with it, producing, directing some of it, and I loved it. You know, I was singing, dancing. I played the MC in cabaret. You know, cabaret, cabaret. With my mask and the white thing and the whole. So and I love doing it. But you know, back home there was not much. You know, there wasn't really that time. A lot of acting schools and what have you. And I just loved it so much. So I said, I'm going to write to some schools in the United States, New York or Los Angeles, to see if I can get and learn some more about the craft, you know, producing, directing, acting, you know, what have you. So I ended up in Los Angeles, and I studied also with Stella Adler. I got to meet her. And I remember, so I came there without knowing anything, but I got to come in and I did some classes. And I remember Stella Adler was telling me when I did one of the scene with her, she said to me, Geir, whatever you do in life, if it's going to be acting or something else, always be true to yourself and be you. Don't try to be an American. You'll never be an American. Don't try to be this. Just be you. Be true to you and like you, and you will be so successful, I guarantee you. But never try to be somebody else, you know? And that has stuck with me the whole time, Vanessa. Just be you, you know, don't try to be all these things. And, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons that I ending up what I'm doing today and been doing well with it, because I always remember that. And, you know, be kind to people, be you, and not trying to be anything else. And then she really helped me so much. You know, I wish I could tell her today, but unfortunately she's not here any longer. But she really, really helped me to get to that, you know, thinking.
I think a lot of us that end up making our own individual way have somebody tell us that early on, because there was another DJ that had told me that several years ago in my career, when I was kind of, you know, at a point where I had done a lot of work, but I'd always done a lot of work for other people. So I was always kind of doing what they wanted me to do. And it was getting to the point where it was time for me to grow beyond that and decide what I wanted to do. And he just looked at me and said, just do you. And those were very valuable words, because you're never going to be somebody else, and trying to be somebody else will just really hold you back from being yourself. So you made it to LA. What were those early days like when you hit the pavement in LA in America?
Well, you know, I didn't have much money. So a friend of mine was worked in department stores in the weekend. He was like a fragrance model, you know, that's spraying people when you walk into the store, you know, those annoying people that you try to stay away from and you pretend you don't see and you walk around them, right? So he said to me, can you do this job for me this weekend? And I said, well, I would love to, but I didn't know what to do. He said, well, just spray everybody that comes in and you make good money and that's it. So, okay. So I go down to the store in Beverly Hills and, you know, I do what he said. You know, I work for this one line and I walk, you know, I run after people, I spray them all. And the department manager come up to me a few minutes later when she saw me doing all this and saw a customer was running around. And she goes, you know what, I don't think this is for you, you know. And I basically got fired after 5 minutes starting this. So then I started to learn, you know, I got a job in another department store. And I started to learn really what, you know, what people liked and talk to them. It wasn't like spraying everybody. You talk to them and you know what I mean? And you connected with them.
Talk first, spray later.
I worked with everybody. You know, I worked for Calvin Klein, Donna Karan, you know, I mean, all those big lines of fragrances, Chanel. Mm-hmm. And then people come up to me and ask me where I was from. And I said, Norway. And they said to me, well, doesn't Norway have their own fragrance? And then I find out that we never really had one. You know, we have all the fragrances from Italy and France and in the US and everywhere, but we didn't really have our own fragrance. So then I said to myself, this will be kind of fun to do some investigation and find out how we do this. So then I was lucky to meet this French perfumer on this one of the perfume parties that he had in Los Angeles. And I was talking to him and I said to him, how do you create a fragrance? I would like to see if I can make a fragrance, you know, from Norway. And he said to me, well, first of all, you have to find ingredients that you like. And the first thing that came to my mind, because of my background being outdoors, was, you know, Norwegian wildflowers, you know, the fresh, clean scent of Norway. So when I went back to Norway for my last vacation, you know, I had some samples, some little, you know, herbs and that with me to him just to show the perfumer what kind of scent I wanted. So I started to work with him. And every time we come up with a blend, you know, like an oil blend, I walked on the street and asked people what they thought about the scent without telling them that I was behind it. And that way you get the honest truth, what people really think.
Right.
And the last ingredients I put into it was like lavender extract to make it very soothing and light. And people goes, oh my God, this is, oh my God, oh my God. Everybody was like loving it. It was like almost 100%. And I said, oh my, this is the fragrance I had to go with. But now I needed a name.
Mm-hmm.
What I did, I borrowed money from a friend of mine. I maxed out my credit card and I produced 1,000 bottles, which is today nothing, right? But 1,000 in my little apartment in LA. And what I did, I copied my mom's signature without her knowing it. And I silk screened her name on the bottle. And I gave her as a surprise for Mother's Day. So I was sitting in LA with 1,000 bottles in my apartment, and none of the department store will call me back, you know. And finally, I got a meeting with Nordstrom's, and the buyer was really nice, and she said to me, okay, you have no name and no advertisement money. There's no way that we can do this. And I never give up. And finally, she's going to put 100 bottles on a consignment to see how much I will sell in 3 months. Ooh. And this was right before Mother's Day. I had to be very creative. So I went to a garage sale and I bought a suit for $5. And at the garage sale, there was a red carpet laying there. So I said, can I get that with it? She said, yes. So I got the red carpet. I had my suit on. I called up a friend of mine in my acting class. He was a photographer. I said, John, can you come down and take pictures of me, pretend that I'm a big star from Europe? I only have one shot to do this. He said, Geir, this is before the cell phones, right? And he said, Geir, I would love to do this, but I have no film in my camera. I have no money. I said, nobody would know that. Just come and flash and pretend I'm a star. So he came down. A couple of my friends came by from class and said, oh my God, I can't believe he's here. You know, pretend that was a big thing. I was staying in the corner. And you have the big, you know, all the other fragrances over here. And I was there. And all of a sudden, you know, in LA, everybody wanted to be a star or see a star. So they thought I was somebody big. So people started to line up, you know, and I was there with my picture of myself in my background, you know, smiling. And they see this blonde guy sitting there. And I'm starting, people come up to me and I give them a little massage on their hands and spraying them. And they start to buy one after another. In an hour, I've sold everything out. I got like 30 people on a waiting list. And I remember Nordstrom calling me up the next Monday and said, Geir, what happened? It looks like we don't have any bottles. This must be something wrong. I said, well, I sold them all. And they'd find out from the store that everything was sold out. And that's how I started. And then I got up to 2 stores, 3 stores. And then I started with Nordstrom. So it was a wonderful beginning. And again, I was like creative. I have nothing to lose. And I just did that. And it come, you know, yeah, very successful after that.
Oh, you know, the fake it till you make it, and you faked it. And it seems like you faked it and made it in the same day.
So. I mean, just in the beginning, but it was funny. I was also at that time a seat filler in one of those talk shows,
the award shows and stuff.
And they give you $20. So after I was finished with Nordstrom, being a star, I was into my little $600 car that I bought, like a little car. I changed, you know, my T-shirts, and I drove down to be a seat filler and sitting there clapping to get $20. You know what I mean? So it was like, but that's what you need to do. And I looking at it now, I said, no job is too small. You know, it's what you want to do, and you learn from it so much. So it doesn't matter what you do. You know what I mean? You just make it happen, and you will. And I think so many people today think it's kind of easier than they think. They give up so early. It takes a little longer. You know.
Oh, yes. One of the biggest artists to come out in the last year or so is Lizzo. And a lot of people are like, oh, wow, you know, where's she been? And she has all these amazing songs, but they don't realize that she was out there stumping that album for 6, 7, 8 years before it got that kind of radio play. But she just never gave up. I mean, even if it meant sleeping on couches and studios and stuff to make it happen. I mean, she lived for a while out of her car. And when you're really running for that passion, you have to show the dedication, you know, if it's possible. Sometimes life intercedes and you have to put those creative aspirations on the back burner, but it doesn't sound like that ever happened to you, which is great. It seems like you've been able to just kind of keep rolling forward, because you went from that first initial fragrance, which is called Laila. That's your mom's name, which is a lovely, beautiful name. Did I say that right? Is it Laila?
It's Laila.
Lila. Okay, sorry, it's Laila.
The A is silent in Norway, so we call it
Okay.
Laila, but it spells Lai. So most people here say Layla, but it's actually Laila.
Yeah, we're a hooked on phonics society. So okay, so it's Lila perfume, but now you have a variety of lines. You have scents for men and scents for women. You also have become associated with Disney. So talk to us about your Disney fragrance and that story.
Yeah, that was very exciting. So, being from Norway, and I don't know if you've been to Disney World in Orlando.
I grew up in Florida, so at that point in time, half of our school trips were to Disney World.
Oh,
So
yeah. Okay.
I
So,
knew all the good places to go inside the
yeah,
park.
I grew up, with seeing Disney movies every Christmas in Norway, and I just absolutely love Disney. So it was fun for me because Disney World, and Epcot, they have different countries, right? So I got my fragrance first. Laila was the first fragrance, and then they started to go to sell it at Epcot at the Norway Pavilion, and we did so well with it. The first weekend, it sold out everything, and so then I started to get connected with Disney, with that, and I first had a women's perfume. I come out with, hand and body cream for dry skin, natural deodorants, shower gel, what have you. Then I added a men collection, like a men fragrance, with cleanser and face scrubs and all that. Then I started to do skincare, like, with Norwegian clabbery, made for, sensitive, dry skin. And it's all skin types. And it's no paraben or mineral oil. So it's more, it's more like it's more like a moisturizer that is made specifically if you have problem with like a fine line, if you're dehydrated, it's all natural. So that I did that. And then, Disney had a movie that you might have heard about called Frozen.
Maybe once or twice.
And with that movie, which, it really takes parts, or, it's created kind of in Norway, right? So then I spoke with people at Disney and talked about a scent that was, captured the essence, was inspired by the nature of the movie. So it wasn't just for princesses, it was more for the nature of the movie. So I started to work on that for a couple of years. And we called it, we want all the elements kind of in the fragrance, from when you see it in the beginning with the ice and the stormy thing, at the end with the sister, saving her sister and the whole thing. So I tried to have all the elements inside the fragrance. So it was named Frozen in a Bottle. And so we launched it in Disney World. And that also sold out the first week. And then we had it out in Disneyland. And then before this last in 2019, when the second movie came out, invited me to be in Times Square at the Disney store. And then they also had like a billboard of me outside the store. I felt like a superstar for a day. So we did that, and we sold out that day also in Times Square, which was an amazing experience, And I was there signing bottles and pictures and the whole thing with Disney. And, you hear the music in Disney. I come in on stage there inside the store and signing. And it was such a wonderful experience for me, to be associated with Disney, because for me, Disney is what I'm about. It's about storytelling. It's telling a story about it. It's not just staying there and selling a product. For me, it's very important to be involved. And that's one of the reasons. And also with Nordstrom, it's the same thing. Nordstrom is known for service. It's a reason for them to be very successful, because they have a very good service. And they're also about taking care of their customers, and Disney is kind of the same way in their way. So they kind of like, as a department store, Nordstrom it's different than most of the other ones, I think, the way they're doing it. And obviously this is so unique in so many ways, which for me, I feel so connected with them, and starting to work with them as well. I feel very humble. It's like, it's like a dream come true to me to be able to do this, with Disney.
Now you went from a seat filler to a swag bag filler, and with your perfumes and your products. So I love it that you used to sit in a seat for 20, for $20, clapping to be like, yay, and make the seats look full. And now your stuff has been in all kinds of gift bags backstage at award shows, including the Grammys and the Tonys and Miss Universe. And what else? I know I'm missing one.
Yeah, no, there's many of them I've been part of. But the fun part for me was actually the Grammys, because I met the producers of the Grammys without knowing that I was a producer, and he told me that his girlfriend got some sample of a fragrance, and most of them had sold out; they didn't have it. So what I met him like in the parking lot, kind of, and gave him the samples, and he was calling me up, and I didn't know what it's for, but he was involved with the Grammys, but I didn't know at that time. So I go in to like a meeting with him, and one thing led to another. He invited me to do a special, to be my fragrance for not just the bag, it's actually 18 of the stars backstage. So what I did, I made a basket thing with Laila for all the stars that are going to perform at the Grammy Awards. And all the nominees got a special collectible bottle, and I was invited the night before at the party with every star you can think about in the world, right? So I was staying there in this room, a beautiful thing, and I see my fragrances up, stacked up, all the thing. And then they put a spotlight on me and said, we don't also want to thank Geir Ness for this fragrance. And I was like, I was like freaking out, and it was amazing. And then I got to meet with some of them later and make friends with some of them. But it was really an amazing thing, to just, you never know. I mean, who you're going to meet. And I was telling people, be nice to everyone, because you never know who you're going to meet. And you should be anyway. But, it's like, I feel some people are rushing through it. They don't listen to what you're saying and whatever, but just take a little more time. Be kind and nice to people, and good things will happen back to you. You never know when. You can sit there and say, I've tried everything, I want to give up, and they're easy. We all have been through that. I was through that too when I was doing my fragrance. It wasn't just going, shoom, It was time that I could barely eat, and I had to sell my clothes in garage sale to make rent. You know what I mean? I've been through all of it. But it's just never giving up and believing in it, and treat people with respect. And I know that good things will happen to you, So
there are a lot of times when opportunity can literally be sitting right next to you. I've always, told DJs that I've mentored is, you're going to work a lot of different kinds of gigs. You're going to have some gigs that, you're literally sitting in a bar playing for 5 people.
Right.
But you don't know who those 5 people are.
Right.
One of those people could be the person walking up. I've literally had somebody walk up and book me for $1,000 event because they just was playing stuff they like to hear. And they're like, I was looking for somebody and you're here and you're doing what I like. And so it was just, some no-name place in the middle of nowhere that I was covering for a friend. But hey, it's that's life. Opportunity can be everywhere. And I love that you have been able to recognize that and you share that point of view with people, because you're right. Be nice to people. You could totally brush off the person that could be your next opportunity.
I'm going to give you another example. It's a very good example. I remember one time I was in one of the department store doing my promotion, and and I see this woman coming up there with plastic bags, right? Not a Chanel bag or not that beautiful, but plastic bags, right? And she kind of looked like almost like a homeless person, right? Walking around in the store. Everybody was like, oh my God, we walk away. All the vendors, all the companies was there. And her, talk to her, hey, how are you? Do you want a hand massage? Talk to her, whatever. She was so sweet, and she ended up buying almost every single thing that I have in the store, And all the other vendors was like, because they always think, that certain type will buy and everything, But I just treat everybody the same way, And I think that's one of the reasons I've been doing well with my line, because I always have, I don't care what people do. I never had, and I learned that from my mom when I was very little, how to respect people and how to treat people, and because I came from nothing, and I always did that. So that for me, it's very natural things to do. And I have seen so many times people that start to get things going and be successful, they kind of change and they become like, I can talk to you, I can do this, you know what I mean? It's like changing a lot, And I am so glad that I actually grew up like that, and I learned, the value of things and respect people.
Well, I'm very glad you did too, because without that, we wouldn't have all of this. Now, you did kind of say that you got to meet a lot of famous people, and I'm sure with your Disney experience that you got a lot of behind the scenes
Right.
um, chances, I guess, that the average lay person wouldn't get. So you got to party with, all the characters or the actors, and that's a long running relationship. So I assume something that, once everything does go back to normal. For anybody watching this in the way, way, way future, this is in the middle of our COVID-19 pandemic. So we're
Yes.
all just kind of wistfully waiting for the points where we can go back and experience some of those things that maybe we were putting off for a little while, going, maybe I'll do that next year. And, so if anything is teaching us all again or reiterating the point
Yeah.
that life is a
That,
little too short to wait sometimes.
right. Absolutely.
Uh, so you have done so much so far, and there's a lot of places that you've been. What are some of the things you see for yourself as a company or as an entity moving forward?
Well, I always wanted to do more about my company. I'm gonna create more another scent that I've actually been working on this year, but because of what happened, we got to do this next year. So there'll be another fragrance. The fragrance I did now, the frozen fragrance, after it sells out, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I will have another scent coming out that is similar, for that one, but that will be out. It was supposed to be out now in the fall, but it will be out sometimes next year instead of. I also design handbags. I do that every season. I have a new one coming out now, like an animal print, reversible, so you can reverse it to things. So I have that as like gift sets. I also do more with my men's line, my skincare line, and all that. And,
Mm-hmm.
I try to keep my companies pretty tight. You know what I mean? I don't have it in a lot of places. I mean, one of my biggest accounts is actually my online, my geirness.com online, because people, when people don't go in the stores, they will, connect with me that way. So I'm pretty. I do a lot of stuff with social media now as well these days. We all do. We had to connect
Yeah.
with people and connect with our friends and everything.
Well, if we didn't before, we sure are now.
Exactly. I also I try to do a lot of volunteer work because I like that, especially lately is the animal shelters I've been
Mhm.
very involved with. I've been involved with a lot of different, things, but the animal shelters, because I love animals so much and I can't have a dog because I travel so much. So what I do sometimes, I take them with me to my home for a day, or I find them home. Uh,
Mm.
but and that gives me a lot. It's sad to see them when you leave them again. That they're sitting there looking at you with those eyes, and it's like, oh my god. But you know that if you weren't there, they wouldn't have seen anybody. So it's a good thing, and so I'm trying to be very active with helping whatever I can do to help whatever it is. But mostly lately it's been animal shelters. But of course I've been involved with abused children and cancer and many other ones too, which is
You
very
had
all
it,
of,
that was mentioned on your profile, and I did want to know a little bit more about that because you emphasized education, and then like you just mentioned children. It does mention children's cancer, but then you also work with or on behalf of abuse victims as well.
yeah, that was an interesting thing because my dear friend Beatrice David,
Hmm.
which is a wonderful woman. She is so involved in so many different things. And she talked to me about this one thing in Chicago, which was, abused children. So for Christmas, a few years ago, I want to do something special. So what I did, I went to buy backpacks, and
Oh.
some gifts, for Christmas for all of them in in the area. There's it wasn't it was kind of like a school, but a home for them, that they can
Mhm.
secure in. And I was dressed up like Santa Claus, and I was going to go in and be Santa Claus for them right before Christmas. And some of them have been through horrible things, so
Yeah.
I do have a little distance, what I mean, with them too. But they, in the beginning, they were a little afraid and they were there, but they started to warm up, and some of them come up to me and just thank me so much, and it's the best Christmas they ever had, you know. And it was like, you know, for me, it was just like, wow, you know, it was just a little tiny little thing that I did, and it meant so much for so many of them. I wanted to cry thinking about it, because it's like, and you suddenly forget, you know what I mean? I came from a home that had so much love, you know what I mean? And I was never exposed to any of that. So like, I can't put myself in that situation. I can't even imagine what they have gone through, you know? So for me, just a little thing, and then we can see how much we can do. It not because of money we have to, but you just do something. If you are able to do something good for other people, whatever it is, you know, do it. You know what I mean? Call up those people. I mean, you can go online and find out so many things you can do to help people. And it's not like you have to give them money. If you don't have money, you can give yourself to them, you know, whatever it is. So that, it shows me too, you know, it's like, God, there's so many things we can do here just to make a difference to people.
Kind and supportive words can reverberate for the rest of somebody's life. You know, there are definitely, you know, I mean, myself and other people I know that had more challenging upbringings where, you know, we can look back and kind of pinpoint maybe that person that kind of maybe just stepped in and gave you just a little extra right when you needed it. And that is something that sometimes we've become a far more self-focused society, or at least it seems that way. But I do, on a daily basis, see groups and organizations and individuals that are constantly trying to create a more positive experience for other people, because you know, you're never going to hurt yourself by bringing other people up with you, ever. Right. But now you also have a platform as a motivational speaker. So when you are doing your motivational speaking, do you speak more to adults or children, or kind of a mix of both?
I have done both actually, but it seems to me that well, both. But a lot of adults now that come to a certain age, you know, they kind of like feel like they're, let's see, they are divorced or they're something, and they feel like they're useless, you know. That's how they think about themselves, you know. So you're trying to like motivate them to really think differently and starting to create things again and go out there and doing things, because it's so easy, you know, to feel sorry for yourself when you've been through a horrible thing. But you know, you're moving on, and for some people it's easier than for other people, and I totally understand that. But what I try to do when I do that, I try to speak to them and tell them some of my stories as well, and also think about them, and also have like let's see now when we're sitting home and people get frustrated, you know what I mean, and nothing to do, and people get depressed and all that. So what I'm saying to people, like now, I talked to a lot of people the past few weeks about, do a schedule for yourself. Okay, you're waking up, do your bed every day, number one. I always have done that since I was little, always. Even if I go staying in hotels, I do my bed. Even in hotels, you know, I always do that. And it's a good thing to have something. Okay, now I do that. Now we can brush your teeth. You know, we do. You know, your breakfast. You know, maybe from 10 to 11 you do this. I started to do a Spanish courses now too. So 2 hours a day I do a Spanish course. So I do it for a certain time. You know, and today when I'm going to speak with you, I have, okay, I'm going to speak with you for this time, and then, you know, so you have all the schedules setting up, and then starting to get easier. You know. And you can see a movie from this time, and you can try to be creative, learn something new, you know. Like most of us have now, we are lucky to have an internet, or we can, you know, learn things.
Oh gosh, 20 years ago, this would have been a whole different landscape.
I mean, I am not a good cook, you know. I do very simple food. So now I'm going to learn more about how to do my favorite salmon. So I'm going to start to do like a class with that, and then I will show people on my, you know, website, whatever, after, you know, next couple of weeks now, how I do things and how I'm learning, and then try to be involving people, you know, in a way that we can see we can do things. So time going fast, and then all of a sudden you learn from it. Maybe now we can think about, God, I'm so lucky I have friends, call them up, you know what I mean, and realize what you have in life, not what you don't have, but what you have. We all have something, you know. Even how depressed we are, and we're going through things, and maybe we lose some loved ones, you know, which is horrible. But we always have something good too. You know, we have something to look at that we can see. Wow, I really have that. It's so easy to think about negativity. Oh my God, this, my back, my this, and oh my God, poor me, you know. But what we have, right, Vanessa? We have right now. You're sitting there, I'm sitting here. We talk to each other, you know. We have this moment together, which is wonderful, and we're lucky, right? We're both lucky.
Yes, I am very lucky to be able to sit here and and be in safety and not have to be out there on the front lines. I mean, of course, I'm worried about my business, but I mean, business is business. I've been through ups and downs.
Right.
The last recession was great practice. So, you know, it's just looking ahead now and saying, okay, it's forcing me to think differently, and it's forcing a lot of us to think differently about how we're going to engage with the world moving forward. But I still, you know, believe like you that there are a lot of ways that we can move forward on a very positive bent. And this in some ways is, I like a forced pause button where you kind of have to slow down a little bit, because it can get really easy getting caught up in just that, you know, I need 26 hours for my 24-hour day. Like there's just not enough time in the day. And I love how you're saying to use your time proactively, because yes, this is a great chance to break down and do some of those things you've never done. Like I'm using this as a chance to focus on projects that I was squeezing in between all the work. And now the work is gone. So now it's time to just really focus on those projects. And I have not gotten to the language learning level yet, but I should. So, so for you, Geir, what we obviously have your website, which is www.geirness.com. That's GEIRNESS.com for anybody out there going, what, huh? And you'll also be seeing it on the screen as we speak. But what are some other ways that people could connect with you?
Also, I have, you know, Facebook. You can find me there, Geir Ness, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And also, you know, you can send me an iMessage, you know, and connect with me. I try to answer everybody, you know. I mean, I had lately a lot of people, because of everything is closed, you know. So I get, yesterday I had over 100 emails and messages from people that ask me, you know, what happened for Mother's Day, you know, because Mother's Day is coming up. Where are you going to be? What are you going to do? So what I decided to do, you know, I was sitting and writing hundreds of pictures, you know. I have pictures that I signed, so and I send them to my warehouse. So when people buy something for Mother's Day, they will at least get a picture with me, you know, that I've signed, you know, with the purchase, you know, of it. So I try to do things, you know, so at least I'm part of there, you know, I'm there with you.
Yes, and that's an excellent tactic to take for that. They have a little piece of Geir,
Yes.
and by extension, a big piece of Norway, if you will.
Exactly.
So if you want to get to know more about Geir, guys, visit his website. You can also read the excellent interview article featuring him in the No Strings Attached-ENews online magazine. We had mentioned Beatrice Davis earlier. She is our senior editor of the online magazine. I'm also part of it, along with a fabulous board of like-minded, positively driven people, because the No Strings Attached-ENews magazine is just about that. It's about looking at things from a positive and informative perspective, and not just trying to, you know, browbeat you over the head with a vast array of emotions, which is one reason I know that we were super thrilled to feature Geir in the paper, because he is literally the embodiment of everything positive, as you can see so far. So let's see, we have your next year upcoming fragrance launches to watch out for.
Yeah.
And that would, yep. So, and I guess I would say any public events, but we don't know when those are going to start up. So
yeah,
I guess we'll have to
my
keep
website too, and I'll let you know about all those things I'm going to, you know, do. I'm planning on, I have the one that I know I will do, and I think Beatrice is part of it. It's in November, I believe, in Dallas. It was something special we're going to do there, but we will be on our website, so, you know, definitely.
So we can follow up with you there.
Yeah, I can remember right now. My head is spinning around. It's like, I know there
was... It's all the details. It's all the details. We're all learning new things and forgetting old rhythms really quickly.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, so there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for, oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I want to say one more thing I think is important for people. Try to do some exercise at home as well, you know, whatever you can do at home, you know, to keep yourself, you know, do some push-ups, sit-ups, whatever you can do, you know, and drink a lot of water as well. But try to do some exercises. Put that into your time every day, at least for 30 minutes. Put it into your day, whatever it's morning, whatever you do afternoon, but try to do it, you know, and and be active with that. That's important too, especially if you're in a small area that you can't really go out or do much. Be sure you walk or do something, for at least 30 minutes. That's very important.
Yes, yes. Physical activity helps rewire your mental activity. So when
Right.
you find yourself falling into patterns of I'm bored, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm this, you can actually help fire up your own happy synapses just by moving around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here right here on Cut and Mix with me, DJ Audioprism. This is my fabulous guest, perfumer Geir Ness. So you should find all the ways that you can follow him and enjoy current and future scents and products, as well as keep in touch with his positive news moving forward. Geir, I want to thank you again for joining me today here.
Thank you, Vanessa, for having me. That was a wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And we are going to follow up with you and keep an eye on your journey and progress around the perfuming world. And who knows, maybe we can all go to Disney World together someday.
That would be
We'll
awesome.
hit Space Mountain.